welcome back, listeners, to the Cosmic Confluence podcast, where the mystical meets the practical and the cosmic threads of our lives weave into deeper meaning. Now, listeners, today's guest is a true explorer of both the outer and the inner worlds, author, educator, and soul traveler. She's not only chronicled her journey from the US to Mexico to Africa and beyond, but she has created powerful tools for healing and awakening, from a mindfulness curriculum for Gen Alpha to a spiritual guidebook for those who are navigating consciousness shifts. Well, we are diving into what it means to raise a conscious generation on a new earth, unpacking the 52 insights for Gen Alpha curriculum and exploring how generational trauma, ancestral wisdom, and modern education intersect in this super pivotal time. So, listeners, if you have ever wondered what it takes to teach mindfulness to a generation born into such a rapid change and what it really means to heal forward, I hope this conversation is for you. So, with that, listeners, let's welcome Queen D. Michelle. Queen, welcome to the show, and it is such an honor to have you with us.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and I'm so excited to be able to talk about Gen Alpha and the mindfulness curriculum. And I love the way you say going forward. I love how you say as we live, how do we connect with and educate in a way of mindfulness for Generation Alpha? So thank you for that and a platform to just discuss it. I want to talk about, first of all, who is Gen Alpha? Let's
Mhm.
inform your listeners about who Gen Alpha is. Now, Generation Alpha was born between 2010 and 2024. They
Yeah.
are the children of the millennials and also uh, Gen X. They came in, those who, were a little late in having children,
Having children,
their children as well. But they are the first generation to be born fully in the 21st century. That means that from practically from infant from infancy,
yeah.
that tablet, that phone was in they were swiping and clicking. They are swiping and clicking and have been since infancy. They are the most materially endowed generation ever. And the oldest of that generation turned 13 last year.
Mhm.
And they will be the largest generation in the history of the world. Now, we're talking about, just to make it plain, Beyonce's children and, and, and,
Mhm.
and Carly B children. Okay, when we talk about uh, who they are, if we get mindfulness in that way. Now, see, while parents play an important role in protecting and guiding their children, of
Mhm.
course, Gen Alphas are functioning and operating in spaces free of parental influences. In other words, this generation has access to tech and will have access to technology and platforms that their parents don't even understand. Okay?
Yeah.
They are the generation that is most connected, most exposed, and most educated by external stimuli. They are the digital, mobile, social, and global generation that will one day, soon, get this, guide the evolution of humanity going forward. The conscious evolution of humanity is in Generation Alpha's hand, and we have a responsibility to place a balance in them. Now, we're not going where they're going, but we have a responsibility to implement or to give them the balance that will help them to navigate emotionally,
Mhm.
e- emotionally and socially navigate their world. There are tools that we are responsible for putting in their hands so that they can navigate their world. And with that, I created a mindfulness curriculum. It's called 52 Insights for Gen Alpha, a
Mhm.
conscious curriculum. Because that's what's missing from uh, education right now across the board, across the globe. You know, we're still, remember, I don't know if you remember, but back when I was in school,
Mhm.
um, at classes like uh, home economics,
Yes.
and we we had classes,
Moral
you
science. Moral
yeah, that taught sewing, and
yeah.
we had shop, that taught and that taught carpentry and things of that nature, for which was needed for those generations that were coming out. That's not needed for our generation. I mean, for the generation now.
Of
But what is needed is a class. I'm not saying take away math and science and English. Those things are important, sure, language arts. But what about a class for mindfulness? What about a conscious curriculum that they can go to? Because that class, just like the classes we used to, would have, would help balance the world that they will be navigating. So 52 Insights for Gen Alpha uh, is a conscious curriculum. The curriculum focuses on self-awareness through activities that foster mindfulness, self-management, relationship skills, social awareness, and conscious decision making. That is extremely important. Now, that will help them to cope with the normal stresses of life, and so that they can work productively and fruitfully in their realm, in in their world. So this curriculum is for it, it's geared toward 7th, put it this way, 12, 13, and 14-year olds.
Mhm.
12, 13, and 14-year olds. However, this curriculum, if embraced, can be modified for the younger. Because why not start young? Why not start? Because those they're already swiping and clicking. So why not? If it can be modified. But my educational background, I'm a retired elementary and middle school teacher,
Mhm.
27 years. So I geared it toward middle school because get this, th- in the beginning, this curriculum wasn't even, I didn't even think about. It wasn't, I didn't have Generation Alpha in mind. Let me tell you how this came to be.
Mhm.
When I moved to uh, Mexico, after I retired from teaching, I moved to Mexico after I soon realized here in the States I would have to keep working in order to supplement my pension. In other words, I would have to stay distracted. I would have to stay distracted.
Mhm.
So I researched the top 10 places to retire in that moment in time. And in 2017, I moved to a quaint town next to the largest lake in the country of Mexico called Lake Chapala.
Mhm.
And it was there that I was able to move inward without the distractions. Through meditation, I was able to move inward. And it was through meditation and yoga, I began writing. And because I experienced a spiritual awakening, it was in that space without those distractions that I could experience a spiritual awakening. And I wrote a book at that time called 52 Insights for Living New Earth Now. And in 2000, I think it was 2021,
Mhm.
2020, every Thursday for an entire year, I um, placed a quote, an original quote that came through my meditations, it came through my writings, uh, the Traveling Home Together, which is a New Earth handbook, or through my Flowing and Growing podcast for
Mhm.
2 years. uh, or my blog, Flowing and Growing, that those quotes came, original quotes from me every Thursday for 52 weeks straight, for a year straight. Now, with that, those quotes, I placed um, mm, a reflection page next to it so that they could dive deeper into that quote. Take for instance, I'm gonna take the very first quote out of which is now the curriculum for Gen Alpha. This very quote is this. Listen to this very first one. It says, "The Matrix cares not of the quality and purpose of your life here, but only of the quantity and how much you can give over to the system. You owe no one or no thing your life." Now, from that quote, there's a reflective question.
Mhm.
How are you making your life your own? But also, when a quote is given, they are led to my YouTube channel,
Mhm.
moving inward and onward, or they're led to the flowing and growing uh, mm, pod, not pod, the flowing and growing blog so
Mhm.
that they can delve deeper. They're giving exercises uh, and practices to
Okay.
help them maintain or to integrate those very deep quotes that are given throughout the curriculum. But back to when I first wrote it, it was called 52 Insights for Living New Earth Now. And when I was living in Mexico,
Mhm.
I was getting ready to start an 8-month workshop uh, based on the 52 insights for living New Earth Now and my blog and my book, my New Earth handbook, Traveling Home Together. I also had a special meditation coach who would come in. I also had a artist who was going to delve into living New Earth through art. I also had a movement person who was going to come in and talk about living New Earth Now through movement. So it was
Mhm.
going to be this 8-month course, and every third Saturday from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. we were diving in. Okay, we were
Mhm.
going to journey, and it was in this course was called My Soul's Journey Home. Home meaning back to themselves, right? So it was all set up. I gave the presentation. I had people signed up, and then I got a phone call. That phone call stated that my mother and my father were in dire distress here. They had both, where I'm at now in Detroit, Michigan, they had both left the house via ambulance within a week of each other. My pop at that time was 99 years old with dementia. My mom was 86 with her own set of medical problems. So when I had to put that on hold, that what we were about to dive into, we were going to start in January 2022. But in December of 2021, I returned home and I put that book, I put it on hold. It was, the workshop was on hold indefinitely,
Mhm.
and I placed that book, 52 Insights for Living New Earth Now. I put it away. And for 2 years, I, focused on, of course, caring for my parents until they passed away. And then one day, in 2024, my niece, I said, I still had the book. And I said, "Oh,
Mhm.
what a nice gift for her birthday." So I gave her the book and a candle and a bottle of wine for her birthday when she was over. Now she's a coach for high school students, basketball coach. So when I blessed her with her gift, she kind of sat here and she started thumbing through the book. And she said, "Oh, auntie," she said, "this would be great. This would be a great book, for high school." And I kind of sat back and I was like, wow. You're right. High schoolers can get into can get into this. And then I spoke with a relative who was a retired teacher and principal herself. And I said, hey, this was an idea about actually making this a book she said, for high schoolers. She said,
Mm.
oh no. She said that would be great for middle school. And I tell you, something just blew up in me. Something was activated in me
Mm.
like never before. And and from there, I created a manual, okay, a teacher's manual, if you would, that helped the teachers go deeper into each quote. So this became 52 insights. When she said middle school, well, who is middle school in this moment in time? So that's
Mm.
when I was led inward to do a deep dive into Generation Alpha. And it was from that deep dive that 52 Insights for Gen Alpha, a conscious curriculum, was born. What I wrote and was getting ready to workshop in Mexico, it was never for the people I intended it for. It was always for Generation Alpha. And had I known that at the time, I probably would have messed it up. But with
Mm.
my teaching background, I was able to take that skill and incorporate it and create 52 lessons based on each quote and create a curriculum for Generation Alpha. And I was able to pilot that curriculum in
Mm.
two middle schools this school year. I went into schools about to let out, but August, from late August all the way until May 5th was when the pilot was over. This
Mhm.
month, I was in 2 different middle schools, piloting this program for the 7th and 8th graders in that school. I wasn't able to get into high school, which would have been ninth grade, the 14-year-olds, but I was able to touch the 12 and 13-year-olds, okay?
Mhm.
And, teach the teachers how to implement this curriculum. Now here's the question. How did it go? That's the question
Yeah.
that I'm sure you're baiting to know. How did that go? How was it received? How did Generation Alpha receive this curriculum, receive this mindfulness? How did the teachers receive it? Well, the answer to that is simply this. One cannot teach consciousness
Yeah.
unless they're conscious.
Mm. Yeah. True.
Unless they're conscious, right?
Yeah.
You cannot teach consciousness unless you can. How could a teacher teach meditation if they don't meditate?
Yeah.
How could a teacher teach breath work if they're not breathing and know how to introduce breath work? How can a teacher go on that journey or take them on that journey? Because remember, this is 52 growth. They wouldn't even finished it this year, you know, because it's
Mm.
not 52 weeks in a school year. This is like maybe a year and a half or 2 years. So seventh grade would move into eighth grade with this. Eighth grade would move into ninth grade with this because they wouldn't be finished. All right. And so what I began discovering is that it wasn't easy because the teachers were resistant to go on the journey, let alone take their students. And you know why they were resistant? Because most of the teachers were spending their day and their time in the classroom putting out fires, you know, putting out because this generation is a different breed. And I don't blame the parents for the most part, the millennials of Generation Alpha, because when they put that phone and they put that tablet in their hands, They saw, "Oh, wow, I can get some work done. Oh, I can get the dishes. Oh, I can." You know, the distraction was so humongous that that tablet and that, phone became that external teacher for, uh, Generation Alpha, and the 6-year-olds and the 7-year-olds and the 3-year-olds, right? They are Generation Alpha. Like I said, the oldest just turned 13 this year. But how can we get that? I discovered that it will take someone who's already mindful,
Yeah.
uh, to teach the curriculum, and those teachers are not there. So I find myself now trying to find um, that group of teachers, homeschoolers possibly, those mindfulness, those parents who are already mindful, those parents who are already conscious. And I guess what I'm saying is that this curriculum is ahead of its time as it relates to getting them, because you should have seen me before in the beginning
Mhm.
trying to get this curriculum into the schools. I
Mhm.
was going to school board meetings and I was saying, "Hey, I have this great what Generation Alpha needs." I would say that I know, I know that I know that I know that I know that this curriculum is needed, that this curriculum is helpful, that this curriculum is impactful, but I need teachers to teach it, you know, in order to in order to receive the benefit of it, and they are not there. So it's before its time. Um it's sitting. You could go if your listeners would even want to get more, get the background of this
Mhm.
curriculum and see this curriculum. It's on my webpage, uh Fula, uh it's www.fulaamerican.org. Okay.
Mhm.
uh, that they could actually, and then there's a tab, 52 insights. They can click on that and they could discover it. There's some interviews from students. I was able to get, the students to be interviewed and some parents, you know, who were able to, but as you can see, that they will see, it was a very lukewarm reception from
Mhm.
those who are inundated with the distractions
Yeah.
of what's going on right now, in the world. They don't have time to quiet their minds, or they don't see the importance of balancing the importance of the emotional intelligence that's needed, and that the tools that they will need in order to navigate their work, because they're too busy trying to navigate it themselves, you see. Um, but I followed what came from the inside, and I know that the universe is perfect. And I know that I followed the assignment to a T, and that it is out there now. It's on the website. It's available, and I will continue to speak about it, and the universe will do the rest. You understand what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah.
The universe will uh connect the dots
Mhm.
and bring those coordinated uh components together so that it will serve in a way that it is supposed to serve, because I know that all that work wasn't done just to sit there and not be embraced by this awakening, and by that generation who is responsible, or will be the responsible. They will be the largest generation, in the history of the world. And check out their name, their generation, what? Alpha. Alpha,
Yeah.
right? So I've done my work. I've done my work as I was assigned, you know. And now I continue to want to get the word out that it's out. I appreciate that you've given me an opportunity just to even talk about it. You know, I'm on podcast shows
Mhm.
talking about it, and it will reach where it's supposed to reach, and it will do and be impactful as it should be,
Absolutely.
as it will be.
Yeah. And it's really inspiring to um, feel and see your unwavering spirit, Queen. And I absolutely believe that even if the scale of change is not the one we expect, but that's exactly what you said. I have done my work, I am on
Yes.
it, and let the rest of the work be done by the universe. And
Yes. Yes.
I also believe that generational alpha is going to be so instrumental in shaping the future of this entire planet of the
Yes.
earth. And I come from a generation which has seen two different timelines. The one, they
Mm.
didn't have any digital, we didn't have any computers. We
Right.
had television, we had radio, we had gramophone, and we had those floppy and disk. And then we saw the transition to a completely
Yes.
new world. Now we are at that
Yes.
time where we are seeing artificial intelligence. So I
Yes.
have a millennial, I can give so many different perspectives here. But by sharing the word, even if one person connects with this, and then they speak, they talk to other person, whether it's Gen Alpha or anyone, I think the word will keep on spreading, and then we'll see the scale of change in there.
Thank you, thank you. I believe that we are on the same page. We are in the same mind, and this curriculum is for
Mm.
living new earth now because that's the generation that will be living,
Yeah,
you know, new earth.
right.
So, yes.
Beautiful, Queen. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing not just your curriculum, Queen, but your path across continents, identities, and dimensions, and how exactly the mindfulness curriculum for Gen Alpha it was born. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes for our listeners. And
Thank you.
thank you once again, Queen. It was really
Thank you so much for having me. You've made my day.
and to all the listeners who are curious about integrating mindfulness, ancestral healing, and conscious education, just refer to the show notes. And until next time, I urge all of you to stay curious, stay open, and keep flowing with the cosmic currents. Thank you.